peasant box sales are lower than they've been in 30 years. This is a lot bigger of a deal than a lot of you younger guys realize that it is, because 30 years ago, gaming wasn't mainstream. It was right on the cusp of breaking out into the mainstream, but gaming wasn't mainstream back then. The population was like 3 billion people less back then. Way less normies were playing video games back then because, like I said, it wasn't mainstream. And peasant box sales are so low right now that they haven't seen numbers this low since gaming was a niche hobby. If you need further proof that the peasant box industry is fucked, I don't know what else you need. I don't know what else I could possibly show you to convince you at this point. November current year -1 was shockingly terrible month for video game sales in the U.S. While we traditionally think November is a huge sales month with Black Friday and all, November current year -1 was the worst November video game hardware unit sales and the worst physical software dollar sales the U.S. has seen since 30 years ago. That's according to Circana's monthly report, which paints a pretty dismal picture of last month's commercial performance. The industry in the U.S. saw declines across the board in hardware, accessories, and peasant box spending for an overall drop of 4% year over year at $5.9 billion in total spending. That's not a lot of Concords, guys. You're going to need to open your wallets. And more specifically, hardware sales was down a whopping 27% year over year to $695 million. Oh, man. That's less than 2 Concords. The lowest hardware sales spending for November since, this is current year -20s, $455 million. Even worse, unit sales reached 1.6 million, the lowest November sales since 30 years ago is 1.4 million. Okay, I see how they did this. So they broke up total dollar amount from units sold, which kind of makes sense because, peasant boxes are like 3 times as expensive now as they were 30 years ago, and it's only going to get worse. Like, if you're looking just at units sold, this should be worrying the industry. The industry is selling less consoles now than it did when gaming was niche. So this implies that 1996 had higher sales than we do now. And that's representative of declines across the board. Xbox Series hardware sales were down 70% year over year. Nickel sales were down over 40%. And combined unit sales of the Switch and Switch 2 were down 10% from the Switch last year, despite being a launch year for the Switch 2. Oh, thank you, IGN. That's exactly what I was saying, too. When all of the shills were trying to say that Nintendo's actually doing fine. They're last in the race to the bottom. They only lost 10% of their sales this year, unlike the 40 and 70% of their competition. But their competition didn't launch a new console this year. Nintendo, I think, is the most fucked, actually. God, man, losing sales over the previous year in a year where you release a new console. But you don't get it, RGE. It's the fastest selling console ever. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. And it was for the first few weeks, because they for the first time in their history, they actually shipped enough units for everyone that wanted to buy one. But let's ignore that. Let's pretend, the sales are doing gangbusters. What's going on? It's pointed out by Circana Senior Director Matt Piscatella, who's a total cuck, by the way. Video game hardware has never been more expensive, reaching an all-time November high of $439 per unit, up 11% year over year. Xbox specifically saw its average price per unit increase over 30%, perhaps confirming one reason why folks aren't so keen to buy Xboxes specifically. With the Switch 2, he says he's watching its sales closely and offers analysis on the current situation. 6 months on the market, remains the fastest-selling hardware in U.S. history. Also, now it's only U.S. history, too. Wow, they're changing that narrative. However, part of that was what was driving that was availability to be bought during its launch window. I love it when the legacy media catches up to where we've been from the start. It's been extremely rare to have such a successful new device not suffer supply constraints going into its first holiday sales period. And despite how readily available it is, Nintendo is still losing sales. That's what's so funny. Unit sales of the Switch 2 were lower than those of the Switch 1 during each Peasant Box's first November, but price points are also quite different. The average price paid for a new Switch on November of current year -9 was $309, which just for inflation is approximately $405 in current year dollars, -$1. Compared to the 486 for the Switch 2, perhaps it's a case of demand having been pulled forward or earlier in the year because people could find them, or they just aren't playing on these platforms anymore. Like, you realize the vast majority of people have left for mobile at this point, or they left the hobby entirely. Or perhaps the mass market is not as quickly adopting the Switch 2 as it did the Switch. Well, no shit, because look, the Switch 2 is literally just the Switch Pro. It's pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, a mid-cycle console, and I think most people see it that way. Oh, if you remember cassettes, floppies, and VHSs, you're old as fuck. I mean, that's true. I remember those, and I'm pretty old. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I didn't want to forget that. Perhaps consumers are looking elsewhere for holiday grifting, let's say it right, as the price continues to rise in video game hardware. Tough to say at the moment. No, I'll tell you where the holiday video game gifting money goes. V-Bucks and Robux. That's where the video game gifting money's going. Pretty much every kid I know, all my friends' kids, all my family members' kids, that's all they ever want. They just want Robux and V-Bucks. That's it. There's one piece of hardware that's doing okay. So now you'd expect the next Playground. Yeah, what was this one again? All right, what exactly is this thing? I don't even know what the hell it's meant to play. But you know what? If it's doing fine, that's fine. Things are looking much better on the content side. Sakana reports that content spending was up 1% year over year to $4.8 billion. That's with subscription spending rising 16% and 2% growth in mobile. Physical software sales, meanwhile, dropped 40% year over year for the worst November since current year -30 as well. And this I can understand, because if you buy a physical copy and it's just like a Nintendo key card, what's even the point? May as well just download it. Call of Duty Blop 7 put the Call of Duty franchise back on top for another debut month in November as the month's bestseller, marking the 18th year in a row Call of Duty has launched to the top of the charts. Until it completely flops, that'll keep happening. That said, Sakana reports the franchise saw double-digit percentage full game dollar sales decline when compared to November of current year -2. Oh no. It's a little tricky to make precise comparisons between Blop 7 and Blop 6, given both games launched onto Game Pass and Blop 6 released October, not November. Still, Piscatella tells me that Blop 7's full game dollar sales finished below Blop 6 last November. Additionally, Blop 7 is currently the 7th best-selling game year to date. Yeah. Piscatella anticipates its rival, Battlefield 6, will end the year as the best-selling game of current. I don't know if that happened. I think Arc Raiders probably beat it. This isn't the first time in recent memory it's been beaten, with Hogwarts Legacy coming out on top of current year -3. Notably, that year, Hogwarts Legacy beat Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which did not launch onto Game Pass, while Blop 7 this year did. All of these hacks love to say that Game Pass is skewing these numbers. Didn't Expedition 33 launch on Game Pass too? I don't recall them using Game Pass as an excuse for their low sales. Oh, right, because their sales weren't low. Funny that. It's with knowing that accessory spending was down 13% year over year. Well, the only accessory I care to get to buy nowadays is controllers, really. It's shaped to be a pretty weird year. Aspers tell what he makes of it all and what it means for the games industry. He pointed out that much of the story remains to be told in December, and it's possible consumers are waiting for better deals closer to the holidays. Yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, let me just tell you this didn't happen. Alternatively, it's possible economic factors and price of peasant boxes are pushing people to hold off on making game purchases. Yeah, I don't really care what the hacks have to say at this point, but the studios and games that were giving players what they want don't seem to be having these problems. Remember, the industry isn't one big monolith. It's a bunch of disconnected, hardly any overlap, separate industries. Sure, while one of them is flopping, that all the rest of them might be doing better than ever.